Bob, could you do you have any examples of like, a time where you ran a root cause analysis? Could you walk us through an example and something, an interesting insight that you're able to find coming out of this root cause analysis?
I don't know, without getting into something that's going to be boring with people that I can't show pictures and stuff to. I'll just go through a very easy scenario. And I'll say that, say that we had a significant production outage, and I'm going through I know that a pump failed. Okay, so that's kind of like when you go to the crime scene and you put the crime scene tape around there, just like what we do is, whatever's inside that tape are the facts. And our job is to explain the facts. How did they come to be? So I get into it, and I know that a particular bearing has failed within this pump. And my question becomes, how can a bearing fail?
Yeah.
Now, you can have a bunch of engineers on your team, but the thought process is that in reconstruction is that you're going backwards in short increments of time, and you're actually visually watching this happen. So if I ask you, how can a bearing fail? Most people are going to say, well, it was a bad bearing. It was lubrication. The lubrication people screwed it up. We didn't install it right. It's going to be all of these things that could happen.
Yeah.
But the answer to that question, the way that I've posed it, there's only 4 ways a mechanical component can fail. It's erosion, corrosion, fatigue, and overload.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have the failed part and you have a metallurgist look at it, they're going to tell you by reading the surface which it is.
Mm-hmm.
So say they come back, and the majority of times that they are fatigued, and you would say, well, how can I have a fatigue bearing?
Mm-hmm.
It can be mechanical fatigue, or it can be thermal fatigue. Well, what did my bearing tell me? Say it's mechanical fatigue, okay? I continue following what's true. How can I have mechanical fatigue?
Yeah.
Well, the only way I can have that is imbalance, resonance, and misalignment, right? So when I go through that and I say, well, all of these have to have the evidence from the scene to prove whether they did or didn't happen, and we determined that the person who was aligning didn't have the skills to align. They weren't aligning properly from the beginning. Now, a lot of people can end up there and say, well, I'm going to discipline that person for not aligning properly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what I think of when I see things like that, and especially my work in hospitals, when you have people that are deemed not qualified to be in a position,
yeah.
Well, where's the managerial oversight? Who allowed somebody to be in a position that wasn't qualified to be in the position?
Yeah.
So when I get down and I'm saying, well, why would somebody not align properly? Well, 1, they didn't know how.
Yeah.
2, they were put in the position and allowed to be in the position by oversight. And this, this typically does happen with attrition when somebody leaves and then they just give the role. Lubrication's infamous for that. It's deemed as a perfunctory duty, and there's not a lot of science to it. So just give him the can and the route and say, go ahead. And it's that simple. But the same goes with imbalance, misalignment. And we want to understand, they didn't have the right tools to do it. They weren't taught how to do it, and they were put in a position where they shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
So that gets into what we call the latent root causes, which are the systems-oriented issues that need to be addressed, but led to that decision. Now, in that very simple example, if I'd have disciplined the person for the decision, does the problem go away?
Nope.
If I'd have just replaced the bearing, does the problem go away? No. Because unless you address those systems issues that are influencing the decision makers, it's going to come back. And that guy may, if you discipline him, him or her, that may not happen with them again, but it'll certainly, systems aren't made for one person.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come up with somebody else.
Yeah.
And then you just keep doing the same thing.
Well, Bob, that was extremely insightful. You didn't put me to sleep. Don't worry about that. I felt like that was extremely helpful to just walk through that decision-making process when you're asking the how coulds.
And when you ask how could till you get to the decision maker, then you switch to why.
Yeah.